What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Maverick Man 101. Got a video today from Lynn Everly. Why treating women the same as men is dangerous. Let's go.
In history where if you ask people the difference between a man and a woman, they don't even know the answer.
Is there a difference between men and women?
No, we're all equal.
What are the differences between men and women?
Genital parts, obviously. That's pretty much it.
Our Western society wants men and women to be exactly the same, and modern feminists often don't see any value in traditional gender roles. Or they go even further. They think that women should rule the world now instead of men. They think that men have had their time and it's their turn now, introducing the matriarchy. They claim that women can do everything a man can do, but men can do everything a woman can do.
You think a woman can do anything that a man can do?
Yeah, sure.
You think a man can do anything a woman can do?
No.
I mean, seriously, how do their minds even work? I mean, there are so many
don't.
cold hard facts that prove that this is not the case. One of the biggest differences between men and women is upper body strength. The average man is significantly stronger than the average woman, which makes it very hard for women to do certain physical jobs. And of course, there are always exceptions and this is not absolute. But believe me, most women would cry if they had to work at an oil rig for a day, including me. And I'm not at all saying that men and women aren't equal, but they are different and they do bring a different kind of value to the world and to a relationship. But the fact
I mean, it's not. It really shouldn't even be about equality. It never was. It was never about equality, right? It was about dominating certain aspects of society to get women ahead, which is like, all right, that's what you want, right? You want fairness, you want equality, you want things to be ran by women, but you just never quite see women running to some of the more dangerous jobs in society, right? That are dominated by men because we aren't equal physically. You don't see women running to be loggers. You don't typically see women running to be pilots or oil riggers, like she said. You don't see women running to be garbage workers, garbage men, garbage women, which statistically I think is even more of a dangerous job than I think like police officers. Last time I checked, right? So, I mean, this whole thing about, equality and, they'll go run to the desk jobs, right? They'll run to desk jobs, they'll run to HR, they'll run to anything, any type of work where they can sit down in a air conditioned room and shoot off emails, be email warriors, right? That's what they wanted, right? And then come home and tell you that you broke, that you don't work hard enough, that her day was hard. Who cares? Who cares? Let's keep going.
feminists of today completely deny this fact, and I also think that they're very hypocritical. Because when it comes to the high-paying office jobs, women are invaluable and we
Yeah.
should have more of them, and they
Just said
bring
that.
such a positive energy to the workforce. Everything needs to be 50-50, even if women aren't even applying to the software engineering job. We're still striving for 50% female software engineers. But when it comes to the hard physical jobs like bricklaying or construction work, there are no quotas. Then all of a sudden we remember that men and women are different after all. So in some contexts, feminists want to eliminate double standards. But when it suits them, double standards are not a problem. Another
Right.
difference between men and women is their fertility window. Men have a much broader fertility window. Men continue to produce sperm throughout their lives, although the quality and the quantity does decline with age. Women, on the other hand, have a much smaller fertility window than men. Women are most fertile from 18 to 30 years old. After 30, conceiving is still possible, but it does start to decline.
I mean, these are things that people really, for all of eternity, have understood and have tailored their activities in such ways, right? Now, I get it. The modern world, the industrial revolution in the early 1900s have changed quite a bit, right? And things are different, right? So I get that. But at the core of this, right, biology does not change. It is what it is, right? Women by 30, if I remember correctly, I mean, they're down to like 10% of the eggs that they were born with left, right? Which means 80 to 85% of the eggs are gone by 30, right? Now, yes, can it still happen? Sure. Is it much harder? Yes. And most of the times, women who are having babies in these age groups, maybe even later than 40s, they're not giving replacement value, right? They're not having that 2.1. Most of the times, they're going to have one kid, right? They're going to have an only child. Very rarely where you get women over these ages having more than one kid, right? And I mean, even what she said a little earlier in terms of like men having kids, right? Like their swimmers might be less able to swim. It may not be as good quality. They can still swim. It don't matter. They can still swim. They still out here swimming and looking, right? Who was it? Was it Robert De Niro? Al Pacino? One of them older brothers just had a baby a few years ago at like 80 something. So what are we talking about here? These are universal truths that somehow we've forgotten because we want to make women feel good about their decisions to put family on the back burner, right? Your career can wait, right? You can still go get a career in your 30s, mid 30s, late 30s, right? You could. Your family can't, right? Your ability to have kids naturally can't. Let's keep going.
Decline. And by 40 years old, the chance of natural conception in a given month is about 5%. Now, what shocks me the most is that this kind of information is not even obvious to many people in today's world. I've been in conversations where people basically denied that this information is even true. They literally almost got angry with me for pointing it out. It's crazy to me that we live in a society now where it's controversial to point out the obvious. Up until recently in our modern history, everyone knew this to be true, and this was completely normal. Women got married in their early 20s because that's when they're most fertile. But now, women are expected, just like men, to get a degree and a career, which takes a lot of time. But the question is, do women even have that time? Sometimes maybe, but sometimes they don't. I think in general, this life path is much better suited to men. Because like I said earlier, their fertility window is much broader than a woman's. Plus, the fact that they're not the ones getting pregnant. They don't have the burden of carrying a child. Another thing we tell young girls is that if you marry too young, you're wasting your younger years and you're making an impulsive mistake. It's almost frowned upon. The core message today is that women shouldn't be reliant on men, whether that be emotionally or financially. Because what if he turns out to be a bad husband and you can't escape him? Now, in all fairness, I don't think we should dismiss this point entirely. Because the fact is, there are abusive and bad husbands out there. And it's not just that. There are also just a lot of immature men nowadays. Men had to grow up a lot faster 100 years ago simply because...
I mean, ma'am, shout out to her. I get where she's coming from, but these men who are bad men and want to hurt women, I mean, there used to be a time where you could actually filter through these men and involve the men in your family to filter through these men, whether that be the father, the brother, the uncle. That's where courting comes from, right? Because gentlemen never date. Courting is what gentlemen did. But then when you privatize dating, right? When you privatize dating and you took it away from being a family thing, right? Something that the family did together. Well, then you get who you choose. I mean, most women are not great at choosing mates. It is what it is. But I want to get to her other point in terms of, you know, this is something that we've always done. This is something that is nothing new. But it's the societal aspects, right? I said this in one of my previous videos. It just does not make sense to get married in a society that does not tell women, or at least raises them up to believe and to act like marriage should be their first choice, right? Marriage is the last ditch option for majority of these modern women when they get it in trouble financially, their job doesn't work out, they stressed out, they get burnt out, they get, they have a whole bunch of baby deletions. Then they should give the man that they supposedly love, then they should reach out and find help, right? But from 18 to 25, 26, go out here, find yourself, travel through Europe, and just have fun. Then when you're in your late 20s, hope to God somebody marries you. It ain't worth it.
Because life was a lot harder back then. You know that saying, tough times create strong men and easy times create weak men? It sounds very cliche, but I think there's a lot of truth to it. And I'm not saying that men are the only ones who are immature in today's world. Women are just as immature, just as I have mentioned in many of my videos. But the point I'm trying to make here is that instead of teaching young girls that they shouldn't depend on men, it's better to teach them what to actually look for in a healthy relationship, and also what they can bring to the table to contribute to that. What can they do so their partner can be a better man? I think that's a lot better than just teaching them what they should get out of a relationship, because I think that is happening a lot right now. Because in a relationship, especially a healthy one, you'll always depend on the other person to a degree, especially if you have children. What is even the point of having a serious relationship if you can't even trust each other? You want to learn how you work together as a team and not work against each other and ruin your children's minds in the process. Speaking about children, the role that women had in their children's lives is also almost completely erased. Not the mother who loves them is watching them and making sure they're okay, but some completely random person at the daycare. Because both parents are working all the time. In today's world, women work like men, have sex like men, and should act like men. Men used to primarily be the providers, and women used to primarily take care of the family. It used to be very clear what your role was based on your gender, in your relationship and in society. And of course, this is not absolute. Also in the old days, women were also working sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, now women have to work, right? The economy has completely ravaged them in their dreams of being a boss CEO by 26 with a segs in the city type lifestyle, right? That has pretty much all evaporated into space. So they have to work. I think the number's like 75 or 77% of women in America, like 18 to 45, have to work. So they have to. I mean, it is what it is. But I get it as well, right? Most women are not going to give up their careers, and a lot of men just cannot support the women in those families by themselves, especially if they're living in bigger cities, right? Now, if you go to, I don't know, nowhere in Kansas or Wisconsin, you might be all right. You might have to have candles and no electricity, but you'll be all right. But most women are going to have to work. I mean, it's the nature of the beast right now when it comes to the economy. So, but I think that women still don't want a lesser type of lifestyle, right? They want a certain lifestyle. They want to live a certain way, eat a certain way, do certain things. So they have to work, right? Because they're not going to adjust other parts of their life to make less, right? Or to stop working. So they're kind of in a dilly of a pickle, if you will.
And sometimes they even had to. And there's nothing wrong with that. But like I said, it was not their primary role throughout history. The role of being a present mother is not valued in our current society at all. Since women started to work like men, no one took over that role. Both men and women are busy working full time now, which is insane in my opinion. Women working all the time instead of spending time with their kids is not in the best interest of our next generation. What could be more important than taking care of your own children? I think this should be your #1 priority. Historically, children have always been one of the most important meanings of life for most people. Providing for children and taking care of them has always given people a sense of purpose. But we seem to have completely forgotten this, since recent data predicts that 45% of women between the ages of 25 and 44 will be single and childless by 2030. And this actually makes me very sad. A while ago, I made a video and I used this 38-year-old woman as an example. She never wanted a husband or children until it was too late. She felt very betrayed by the feminist message.
Like, I really did think, like, wow, you've missed your opportunity. Like, you are gonna be alone.
And we can say things like, oh, but that's just your own fault. You just should have made different life choices, blah, blah, blah. And yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look, man, we all have choices, and you know, I don't have a lot of, you know, I don't know. I don't want to say sympathy, but I just, you know, I don't know, I'm just indifferent to a lot of these women, but I do get it, right? They, like I said, they have been lied to. And for a man, when a man understands that he's been tricked, he's been duped, he's been led astray, more oftentimes than not, that man will try to change course, right? If he can, right? He'll try to change course. He'll try to move a little bit differently, try to make different decisions. Women know they've been tricked, but it takes them until maybe mid-30s, maybe 40s to cry and crash out on TikTok, right? But they know they've been tricked into believing something that ultimately will not work for them, right? And this fear, this scarcity, what if he cheats? What if he does this? What if he leaves? What if he does this? What if he, you know, hurts you? What if he does something bad? This constant fear of men, right? That feminism injects in them. And then you, 35, crashing out on Instagram talking about, you know, you don't know what to do. Well, stop living in fear. I don't know what to tell you. But I just think for women, it's going to be hard for them to go back, because then that's admitting that they've pretty much lived a lie their entire lives, right? It's like finding out your parents never loved each other. It's devastating, right? It's devastating. Your parents never loved each other. They stayed together for the kids, right? Finding that out devastates people, just like finding out that you've been lied to about feminism and being a boss queen for the last 25, 30 years of your life. And now you're in student loan debt. You didn't get the CEO position you thought you would have. You don't have the life you thought you would have. Women can't admit that. They can't, right? It hurts. It hurts, right? Let's keep going.
Yes, as adults, we're all responsible for our own actions. But I actually do have empathy for women like her, because this toxic feminist message is the mainstream message nowadays. It's hard to break free. It takes a lot of self-reflection, learning how to think for yourself, courage, and maybe even luck to break free from this toxic feminist ideology. Because we live in a culture where this is all completely normalized.
Right.
And it's not only women, there are also a lot of feminist men.
Do you think a woman can do anything that a man can do?
Oh, hell yeah. Sometimes even better.
Just let that sink in for a moment. And you know, I'm not pretending to have the answer to all of these problems, and everything I just talked about is definitely not comprehensive. There are many more issues we could talk about regarding feminism, but if you're curious about how I realized that feminism isn't all sunshine and rainbows, you should watch this video next, and don't forget to subscribe for more content.
Hey man, shout out to her for this content. Lynn Everly, I think that's her name. Yeah, I mean, you know, I think got some nice eyes. Oh, blue eyes. Go ahead, girl. Anyhow, I think that yeah, it's gonna be hard. And I think a lot of times men feel like, oh, women will come home, they'll act right. It's not going to happen. These women that are crashing out on social media because feminism has lied to them, you think they're going to go be a trad wife or, I don't know, whatever, right? Get married, have kids. No, they got to continue in that lie because it would take probably years to undo the damage to her life that feminism has caused, right? So, yeah, I just think it's going to get worse. I don't really see a light at the end of the tunnel for this, for modern women, for men. Excuse me, especially if you want to get married, you might have to go somewhere else or just go your own way, do your own thing, you know? But guys, I'm going to leave it there. Appreciate you guys for checking out the channel. Leave your comments below. Until next time, eat well, sleep well, be well. We'll see you guys later. Peace.